Please like my videos, please subscribe to my channel, and please press the bell icon so that you get to know when my latest video has come. And to learn more and to find a video relevant to you, please do check out my videos list.
Hello, Namaskar and Adab to all my friends from your friend astrologer and guide Irfan, once more with you from your very own channel Astro Assurance. Normally when we face events in our lives, sometimes we are prepared for such events. For example, if you have sat in an exam and if our exam hasn't gone very well, then we know that we may not score very highly, and if it has gone disastrously bad, then we may even think that we may not make it, or we may make it by the skin of our teeth, or we may make it by our skin. However, there are issues in our lives which come about in our life without any warning, and these are sudden unexpected events, emergency causing situations also, and sudden events which give us some time to think, where we have some time to ponder over them, is a different issue. But if there is an emergency situation where suddenly we need to take important decisions, sometimes critical decisions in our lives, then it becomes something which we have tremendous pressure over us, and sometimes it is not right, and sometimes it is not easy to take decisions in those trying times. So for example, if you go to a doctor and you know that there is a history of diabetes in your family, or even heart disease in your family, so at the back of the mind, subconsciously, you know that you may always face this challenge sometime or the other, maybe later in life. And if the doctor says, you know what, you have a history of diabetes and this report shows you have diabetes and you need to go to this or that treatment, so it is not such an unexpected event, and though the news has come to you at that particular time, but subconsciously you were more or less anticipating it, or otherwise we at least have some time to ponder over it. Or you suddenly get ill and you have a stroke or something, maybe the doctor says, you know, you've had a mild heart attack, and go through all these reports, and by the time the report comes, and then even if the doctor tells you that you need to go through X treatment or Y treatment, you have 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to think about it. It is a sudden event, but at least the decision making is pushed for some time. However, there are also those events where you are told that this is the challenge, this is an issue, and you need to decide now or within a day. Then it becomes a major challenge, major problem. Especially you fall unconscious, you're taken to the doctor, doctor says there is this challenge and you need to be operated immediately. Or you have a concussion in the brain and you have to be operated immediately. Something like that. Then it's a thing which gives you just no time to react. Sometimes the events could be related to an accident, or firefighting situation, or fall, and again there is something that you have to leave everything else and cater to it. So such emergency causing situations, sudden events which leave you no time to breathe, how can we see, or can we see such events through astrological placements, through a horoscope, and does the horoscope throw us some hints to us? Because the horoscope is not give you a clear cut that on X day, on 21st of July 2021 this is going to happen to you. The horoscope may not give you that clear cut direction. However, are there signs that during a certain period of your life there could be that more such triggering of events happens, and more such events are triggered where you need to suddenly leave everything else and attend to this problem or this challenge. So let's deep dive and see whether your horoscope or our horoscopes do tend to give us some hints towards that eventuality where you may suddenly go through an issue, or sudden emergency situations may come upon you where you have to decide quickly, you need to take up a decision immediately, or you have to face that situation immediately. Now there are various ways because of which we may have these events triggered. The first such thing is by activation. We have already done a video earlier on where we may activate certain placements of planets or certain situations or certain results because we are activating a certain house by how we are acting, or how we are carrying our lives, or how we are leading our lives. Say for example, we know that the 8th house to a large extent is held responsible for sudden events, transformative events, challenging situations which need to be taken care of or attended to immediately. So the sign of the 8th house becomes very, very important, and the planet which rules the 8th house becomes very, very important. And usually anything that is triggering either the 8th sign or the 8th house lord may also activate the 8th house, even if the dasha or the antardasha or the transit of the planet is not on. So how does the activation come about? Say for example, if Mercury rules your 8th house. Now this can happen if, for example, if your Lagna is Scorpio and Gemini rules your 8th sign or your 8th house, then Mercury becomes the planet which rules the 8th house. In this situation, if you are triggering the 8th house by your actions or by your personality or the way you are leading your life or by doing certain things more often than not, then you are triggering the 8th house inadvertently and sometimes many times. So what is the 8th sign? The 8th sign here for a Scorpio ascendant native, I'm using this as an example, different ascendants will have different signs which rule the 8th house, so they may trigger the 8th house differently. So here for a Scorpio ascendant native, Gemini ruling the 8th sign and Gemini being the sign of communication and effort and self-enterprise, and Mercury ruling it. So if anything that you're doing regularly which is connected to either self-enterprise or to communication or to decision making, then that 8th house may be triggered. Now we are communicating on a day-to-day basis, so the 8th house is not triggered on a day-to-day basis. But if there is something that you need to do and you're putting off and you're taking too much time on it, or you are trying to wiggle yourself out through using some tactful or manipulative communication and through that escaping, then because you are trying to do some unusual things, you're trying to do different things and you're using diabolical means, diabolical communication, manipulative means, shortcuts in your effort, which Gemini represents by virtue of ruling the 3rd house, or you're being very lackadaisical. You are not taking, because it is self-enterprise also, you are not making the effort towards something that you need to do. So health is of primary concern, you are not taking a decision. Mercury also rules your decision making and the choices you make. You are not acting upon something which you need to act upon, or you are trying to be unethical or diabolical in your communication, or promise something which you don't intend to do. Then you are activating the 8th house, the 8th sign negatively. That's when the 8th house being triggered in a negative manner will throw up a sudden event, an emergency causing situation where you'll have to leave everything, drop everything, and then you need to decide now, because you're sleeping on a decision, you're sleeping on a self-effort, you are not doing the right thing in your communication, you're not doing the right thing, the ethical thing. Then the 8th house will be triggered and it's a reminder for you. So the 8th house, because of this particular situation where Gemini rules the 8th house and Mercury rules that, and you are not doing something right or pushing it away or not doing it on time or taking too much time or being lackadaisical, then the 8th house will be triggered to remind you that you need to take care of this area, or you need to handle this area better, or you need to be more ethical about this area, or you need to be on top of things related to your communication, related to your effort, related to the choices, related to how you use your intelligence. Using your intelligence in a diabolical manner, in an unethical manner, will trigger Mercury and the 8th house inadvertently, negatively, throwing up those situations where emergency causing situations will completely rule over your life for that moment and leave you gasping for breath. So that is one way that you may be activating the 8th house negatively, where the sign and the lord that sign represents, you are doing something which is not right, not the right attitude, not right, not ethical, and not in the right manner in which the planet represents or the sign represents. So be careful of unnecessarily activating the 8th house or the 8th sign or the 8th lord without unconsciously or subconsciously or without wanting to. And so for different people, different challenges will come about. Say for example, if for a Cancer ascendant native, we know that Saturn rules your 8th house. And wherever Saturn is placed, whenever you are activating that area of the house as well. Say for example, for a Cancer ascendant native, if Saturn is placed in your 4th house of domestic life, and in your domestic life you're cutting corners, you're not giving time to your family, or in related to property matters, you're trying to do some diabolical things, you're trying to do some unethical things, you're trying to save taxes, or you're mistreating your family members, then you are activating the 8th house, because Saturn rules the 8th house. Now, the other thing is, by reputation, we also know that in most of the astrological texts, it is given that generally for Cancer ascendant native, the family life, the married life may not be the best. And now, in spite of you knowing that, at least if you are well aware of astrology, if you are of Cancer ascendant, then you have done some research, you will notice that various astrological texts say that Cancer sign people may not have a great married life, there will always be struggles. So having known this, yet you are not being more right and being more careful in your domestic life, in your married life, how you treat your family members, how you treat your spouse, how you treat your domestic affairs, then you are unnecessarily, inadvertently, unconsciously or subconsciously activating the 8th house. Then you will face the consequences. 8th house is not also the house of upheavals, but the 8th house is also the house of in-laws. So in your married life, in-laws will have to suddenly become a part of the decision making or solution making, or helping the couple sort out their challenges. Or the 8th house is also taxations, sudden events, fires, losing money. Then you will face a notice or a challenge or an issue in any of these. The tax authorities may come upon you or say you didn't pay this tax, and tax notice may come in, or health may suddenly become of concern. Health of spouse may become of concern. Health of in-laws may be suddenly coming up, because of which you have to run around, because spouse's parents also like your parents and you're close to them. So don't unnecessarily activate the 8th sign and 8th house, especially if you are aware which sign it is in your horoscope, which lord it is. Be careful. Wherever the planet is placed, ensure that you take care of the areas of that house, and whichever sign rules the 8th house, be more clear, be more crisp in your actions, be quick in your actions, be ethical in your actions, and don't unnecessarily trigger it negatively. The second thing which may unnecessarily or suddenly, without warning, may activate your 8th house is the transit of planets. So whenever a planet transits over the 8th house, the 8th house will be activated. Now, the planets which are faster moving, like Venus, Mars, Mercury, and the Sun, will be activating your 8th house every time they transit over it. Moon keeps activating the 8th house almost every 27 to 28 days, because the lunar calendar is a shorter calendar, and Moon goes through the zodiac much faster than all other planets. However, if you are not taking care of the area of the planet, or if you are not on top of the things concerned with the planet when it is transiting your 8th house, then suddenly something may come about it. For example, the Moon rules your 8th house, and Moon is going to transit almost every month over your 8th house, and you, whenever the opportunity comes to you, you are, especially when Moon is transiting through that house and an opportunity comes by to you to support somebody, to help somebody, and to be more supportive, more nourishing, more nourishment providing to others, so helping others, showing more empathy towards somebody, a team member or a domestic aid in your house, or somebody who works under you, or even your own mother or your family, and you're not taking that opportunity to be supportive, to be nourishing, to be understanding, to be empathetic, especially when Moon is transiting over your 8th house. Then what does Moon's characteristic mean? Moon is about emotions. Moon is also about your own ability to nourish, and how supportive Moon is becoming to you. Then Moon will throw up a challenge where emotional upheaval may be given to you. Emotional upheaval can come from anywhere. It can come through mother's health being under a cloud, because Cancer rules the 8th house here, and Cancer also represents mother. Moon represents your mother. So challenge to mother's health, or in the domestic life, or some vehicle going through some challenge, or property going through some challenge, or any other conveniences you have, breaking down, also costing you money. Or you lose something and then you have to immediately purchase something else because there is a loss on some side. So then the moon will trigger something where you go through emotional upheaval or a loss of money or conveniences, and that loss you will have to compensate either to others or in your own house, or run around to now be empathetic to somebody else because earlier you were not. So suddenly some family member falls ill and then you need to rush to their aid, to show empathy to them, to show understanding to them, to nurture them and nourish them because you didn't do it earlier. So moon, 8th lord, may also throw up the challenge when especially that 8th lord is transiting over that house. And not only the 8th lord, any planet which transit over the 8th house, even if it doesn't rule the 8th house, whichever sign it rules, and if you have not been on top of your game about that planet, Jupiter rules your 8th house, and now Mars is transiting over your 8th house, and generally you have not been somebody who has been wise in your decision making. You have always tried to be this manipulative person, very tactful person, this clever person in your decision making, and Jupiter rules your 8th house. Say for example, for a Leo ascendant native, Jupiter rules the 8th house by virtue of ruling Pisces, which is the 8th sign. So yeah, when Mars goes in transit over your 8th house over Pisces, what is Mars? Mars is sudden event. Mars is suddenness. Mars is also accidents. Mars is also fires. Mars is also breakdowns, breakup, or even falling ill or sick. In the Kalpurush Kundi, it also rules the Lagna, so it also represents your immunity. So if Mars is traveling or transiting over the 8th house, over Pisces, and you have been somebody who in your decision making have not been wise, then Mars is triggering the sudden negative events where now if you are continuing to be diabolical, your health will keep going down, challenges keep coming up and keep putting you down, keep sucking up all your energies, all your finances also. So till you become more wise in your approach in whatever you do, especially related to other people, other people's monies, your responsibilities, your career, your job, and your loans or your debts, or when you owe somebody money or you owe somebody to return them a favor and yet you're putting it off, then any negative planet, any malefic planet which transits over the 8th house will suddenly put you into spot of bother because you have been not wise and you have been more diabolical, you have been unethical, you have not been somebody who's been looked at, who's also looked at the future, and you have not done future planning. You have not been wise enough in various areas of your life, and in any area of your life, Mars or any malefic planet will trigger that planet also, trigger that event also, trigger that sign also. So transits are very, very important. For even the larger planets which may not be transiting over the 8th house, however, if they rule the 8th lord, so for example, any malefic transits over the Lagna position of the 8th lord, and you have been not somebody who has been taking care of the areas of that particular planet or related to the planet or what the planet is the karaka of. Say for example, Jupiter is the karaka of children also, and for a Leo ascendant native, or even for somebody who's a Taurus ascendant native, where Jupiter rules the 8th house, and you have not been giving time to your children, you have not been attending to the affairs of the children or the issues of children, you have not been a good parent, you have not been able to give enough focus, time and attention to them, then what will happen when any malefic planet or even Saturn, when it transits over the natal position of Jupiter, Jupiter is placed in the 2nd house, and either Mars or Rahu or Ketu or Saturn, or even if the Sun is transiting over the natal position of Jupiter, say if Jupiter is in the 2nd house and they are transiting over the 2nd house and Jupiter rules the 8th house, then the 8th house is again triggered and it is payback time. So some matter of the children may suddenly come up where you have to drop everything and rush. There is a call from school, the principal says, come over, I want to talk to you. Please come today evening at 5 o'clock or come tomorrow at 4 o'clock or 10 o'clock and I want to meet you. And then suddenly you don't know what hit you because you have to drop everything. There is a call from school, you have to rush there. Or your son falls ill or your daughter falls ill, or suddenly they have something to attend to and then you have to accompany them because their life is under some emergency. Or they have suddenly been called upon that they have to attend a test somewhere, or they have to attend an audition, something which comes up where you have to drop everything and attend to the matter of the child, positively or negatively, because the 8th house has been triggered, because the karaka of that area of the relationship has been triggered. So the transits will also play a strong effect, especially the transits of malefics will bring up more challenges, issues, firefighting situations, whereas transits of benefics will still at least give you some chance to be able to get out of it with less loss or unscathed. The third thing is the change of a dasha or an antardasha or even a pratyantar dasha. So whenever there is a change in the dasha or the antardasha or the pratyantar dasha, the cusp a few days before and after that change, you will find that some sudden event may come up related to that particular area of life which the planet controls in your horoscope. So say you are going through the dasha of Jupiter, antardasha of Mars, pratyantar dasha of Mercury, then during the dasha, antardasha and pratyantar dasha, all the three planets are involved. Jupiter, Mars and Mercury are involved, and so when the dasha changes or the pratyantar dasha changes, whichever houses these planets rule or whatever they are the karaka of, any of these may be also triggered. So if Mars rules the 5th house, matters of children will be involved, speculative investments may be up top of the game. If Jupiter rules the 9th house, then sudden travel, sitting in examinations or taking care of some spiritual needs or traveling to a spiritual place suddenly may come about. If Mercury rules your 11th house, then something pertaining to friends or your social circle may come about. If any of these planets rules the 10th house, then suddenly something may happen in career. Boss calls you and says, you know what, in a few days time or tomorrow or today evening, I'm not there, I'm not, I'm traveling tomorrow, you have to take over, you have to be present for this meeting, you have to do a presentation tomorrow, and suddenly you don't know what hit you. Or a critical decision you need to take about a career also. Or there may be even an allegation, who knows. So, those matters will be triggered which the dasha, antardasha, pratyantar dasha planet rules. They are the karaka of which houses they rule, especially during the cusp time when the dasha changes. And then, when nothing of this sort happens, still something comes up, then your karma be playing a part, then maybe your karma is acting up and then it is payback time, or this is learning time, or this is awakening time for you. And if there is any karmic debt, then the zodiac has decided that you need to pay off that debt now. And so, because of the karma that you are carrying, especially the 9th house of prarabdha karma acting up, and the karaka of the planet is also something where you have been lacking, you have not been right there, you have not been ethical there, then karmic debt has to be paid off and it may be triggered. Even if you have done okay so far in matters related to the 9th house or related to your prarabdha karma, yet your karma may be something else that you are carrying in this life, and so that event may be triggered, that situation may be triggered, and then suddenly you may face that event unexpectedly also. So sometimes the dasha, antardasha, pratyantar dasha may be different, there may be no transit over the 8th house also, and the 8th house is not being triggered, yet you face a challenge. So most often than not, when the dasha, antardasha and pratyantar dasha is not that of the 8th house, there is no transit over the 8th house of any malefic or any planet whatsoever, yet you face a dire emergency situation, especially related to health or loss, then your karma is surely acting up, and then you have to pay more notice to your karma, your karmic debt. And so, it's better that you keep your karma clean. You always act ethically, you always submit to the morals, higher morals and higher values, the principles and values that are important to us, rather than acting diabolically most of the time and saying, I'll keep the spiritual thing to later part of your life. Then you never know when your karma be acting up and will throw one situation after the other. The biggest challenge that we can face in life is because of the larger karmic debt we are facing, the large issues that we are carrying on our heads, which we may even not be knowing of. So, this can also happen when none of the things are acting upon, when the karma may be acting upon, it's a payback time about your karmic debt. And last but not the least, it is also about the blessings and the curses that we have carried on our heads, or we are carrying or attracting. So usually the blessings of parents, blessings of elders, blessings of older people, senior people, blessing of gurus are very, very important in their life. Especially the blessings and curses of father become much, much more important than that of mother. Mother may curse you in anger, but she doesn't mean it. But fathers never curses you, but if father says one word that if you do this to me and if you don't this right, then the time will show you, time will tell, is enough. The zodiac takes the father's curses because father is also like the guru and the 9th house of prarabdha karma. And that's why it's always important that you take care of the father's issues more seriously. While you love and care for your mother and you treat your mother also with respect, but try and see that you don't antagonize the father. Try to be on the good books of father and guru, especially because they rule the 9th house of the prarabdha karma, which is for this life. You may be unnecessarily activating the negative side of your karma or negative attributes of the prarabdha karma also, or unnecessarily activating the shrap or the curses or the ill will of the father. Even if you don't want to use the word shrap or curse, at least the ill will or unhappiness of father or antagonizing of father or your gurus. And if you've been attracting blessings, then they tend to lower down the seriousness of the triggers of the 8th house, the situation, the emergencies. So it is always better to be on the better side or the good side of elders, of senior people, of old people, of animals and those people who work below you, because then Saturn could be devastating for you. So friends, it's always better to take care of your karma, to be on the right ethical behavior, to treat the elders with respect, to carry also the principles and values, not be diabolical, and be careful looking into when transits are happening, when dasha, nantara dasha challenges or changes are happening, so that the challenges that you may come upon, you're better prepared. So if it's always better that one carries oneself with higher morals and does the right thing, be committed to relationship, work with people, don't antagonize people, try and do good deeds all the time, then the sharp or the curses are reduced, you attract blessings, and then the 8th house lord or the negative events are more kind to you and don't give you those challenges more often than maybe somebody else who is facing challenges more. We do have people in our lives who we think are people who attract more such challenges every now and then, and we'll always find somebody who is either a relative or a colleague or a friend who always seem to be attracting challenges and issues in their lives, and we could be somebody, one of them. So then be more careful in look and advising them that they need to be more ethical, they need to be more right, they need to be more prepared, and they need to be more good deeds, and they need to pay more attention toward their karmic debt. Thus, they need to pay more attention to their karma. So friends, it's always good to be better prepared and to be on the right side of the zodiac rather than on the wrong side of the zodiac, because we never know when sudden unexpected events can throw up emergency causing situations where we need to drop everything else and there is a cost that we need to pay. So like this video, share this video, and if you're looking for a personal consultation from me, please reach out to me at the links given below. Until some other time with some other video, this is your friend, astrologer and guide Irfan signing off. Ciao.